Hi there, I'm Carolyn Rose, and I'm the president of the International Society of the Learning Sciences, and I'm here with Elaine Akiza, who is our past president, and we are hosting these webinars to provide information about an upcoming bylaws vote. We want to make sure that the membership is fully informed and has the opportunity to join us to ask questions. So on this session, we have enabled the question and answer facility. So if anyone joins us and would like to ask a question, then we'll be able to accommodate that as we go. Before we get started, I just want to give a few informational slides just to let you know what the goal of the session is, and then I will turn the mic over briefly to Elaine to give a few words. But let me go ahead and start by sharing my screen so that I can project the slides. Okay, can you see the slides, Elaine?
Yes, again.
Okay, great. Okay. So this is session 2. You're welcome to look at the discussion from session 1 as well. There we were joined by Nicole Rummel and Nancy Law and Cindy Melo Silver, and they shared their views on this upcoming bylaws vote. So for some of you who may be seeing this YouTube video after the fact and may not be familiar with this society, let me just say a few words about that to begin with. First, you can see our website. The URL is listed towards the top of this slide, and you can find there lots of information about our society, its history, and the benefits that are offered to our society members. In short, the International Society of the Learning Sciences is a professional society dedicated to the interdisciplinary empirical investigation of learning as it exists in real-world settings and to how learning may be facilitated both with and without technology. I want to offer a caveat that the purpose of this information session is to inform the ISLS membership about the details of this upcoming vote. And this is an opportunity for the community members to voice their questions and concerns. But apart from the text of the current and proposed bylaws texts, what you hear here should not be taken as individuals speaking on behalf of the society, but should just be taken as individuals of the society speaking on their own behalf. So let me just give a few words of history of this bylaws change. We are an international and interdisciplinary society, and so it's important to us to reflect that balance on our board of directors. But currently, especially, the balance of regional representation in the society makes it difficult to achieve this with our current bylaws, and we have worked for the recent years to try to find a way to support this balanced representation on our board and have run into struggles, and this proposed bylaws vote is the best that we have been able to come up with in order to address this issue. Let me just give you a little bit of logistical information for keeping up to date as we prepare for this bylaws vote and also participating in the vote itself. So you can see here on the slide, first I have provided a link to our current bylaws and other governance documents related to the society. You can also read about the proposed bylaws change at the link that's provided, and right underneath that is the link to the last webinar. This webinar we're having right now is the second in a series. The bylaws vote itself will take place online during the 2016 ICLS conference, and you can find out the details about the conference and its schedule at the conference website with the URL that's noted. But even if you're not able to attend the conference in person, you can still take part in the online vote. I have also provided a link to a Google Doc where you can post questions and concerns. So if you're coming to this video after the live portion has already completed and you want to contribute towards the discussion, please feel free to enter your comments there. And you can also feel free to email me as the ISLS president this year at the email address indicated. And I'll be very happy to follow up with you and discuss any ideas and concerns and questions that you might have. If you go to the website and you go to the link that I have indicated as where you can go to get more information about this proposed bylaws change, you will find this description of the history, and it goes into detail about the reasons for wanting to propose this change and some of the history behind how we have formulated this change. Here you can see a snippet from the current bylaws from the relevant portion that will be changed. It's to Article 4 here, election of directors, that the changes will take place. And there are two proposed changes. One of them is that what we would do is set aside the potential to have some dedicated seats on the ballot for voting for members for the board of directors. So whereas currently we don't have any sort of designated special purpose seats, and there still may be elections even after this vote that will be conducted in just the same way as we always have been, where a nominating committee first proposes a slate, and then the board is able to add some members to that slate. This can still be the sort of baseline approach for the votes, but the nominating committee can also, depending upon the priorities and needs of the society in a given year, designate certain special purpose seats that would be associated with characteristics. So for example, if in a year there's a concern that we don't have adequate representation from a particular region, we may set aside one seat as belonging to that region, so that out of the slate of potential new board members that are listed on the ballot, whichever of those that are relevant that have the characteristic that's associated with that special purpose seat, the one achieving the highest number of votes would be the one that would be elected. What this does is it gives us the ability as a society to address gaps in representation, and to know that regardless of how the vote comes out, that need can be addressed, but that the society still has a large say in ranking the options for new board members. The second change to the bylaws is more of a procedural one. It's separate from this issue of trying to maintain a certain balance of representation on our board, but is more just addressing a gap that we have noticed in our procedures up until now, a concern that if there was a tie in votes for president, that we don't have right now a policy that stipulates exactly how that is to be resolved. And we feel better if there's some established procedure that we can go by. And so the second change is just to make what has been a practice, or what seems reasonable as a practice, would then become more formalized as part of how we conduct our elections. Okay, so I want to thank any of you who have taken the time to be part of this session, and also there will be another one later on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can see how that translates into different time zones on the website where this is advertised. For now, I'm going to turn off screen sharing and rejoin Eleni. Great. Okay, so that's sort of the overview of what it is that we're trying to accomplish at this session. And now I'd like to turn it over to Eleni to say a few words.
So hi everyone. Thanks Caroline. I can hear my echo actually.
What was that?
I can hear my echo, the echo of my voice.
So I don't hear.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. So as Caroline has said, I'm Akiza from the Cyprus University of Technology from Cyprus. would like to welcome you all for being here again, and I would like to second what Caroline has said about the importance of these bylaws changes for ISLS. I'm the ISLS past president, and I've been on the board for over 7 years now, on the ISLS board. So I've been watching these conversations, participating in these conversations about the importance of ISLS being an international organization. So we all feel that this is a very important aspect of the mission of ISLS and of the society. So therefore, this change that we're proposing is really important in helping ISLS keep its diversity and the international flavor of the society as well. So as part of the ISLS mission is to be cognizant of the challenges and the issues and the opportunities afforded in different parts of the world. So we invite people from these different parts of the world to be part of our society. And the measure that we're proposing is actually going to allow, in our opinion, more people to get involved with the society. So thanks, Caroline. I can't hear you.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, and thank you very much, Eleni. Yes, so at our first webinar, Nancy Law was one of the participants, and she was concerned that this seemed to be a sudden thing, and was wondering if there would be a way that we might be able to engage more of the community in discussion by setting up a session at the conference rather than actually going forward with the vote this year. And we discussed some pros and cons to this issue. Also the idea of, in parallel with considering this vote, to also engage the community in more discussion opportunities. And so I wanted to throw that out there to see if maybe you had some feedback also on that issue.
I think it's going to be good to have a discussion at the next ICLS conference, for sure. I do think that the vote, maybe we can broadcast that discussion as well for people who want to attend it and who are not at ICLS. But at the same time, I think we need to make a decision on this, because it's been something that we've been discussing for quite a while. So it wasn't a decision that was just decided, between me and you or just a few people. It was part of the discussions that we had as the board, which numbers, quite a few people from different parts of the world for the last at least year, very intensely. And we had another discussion about this at the CSCL conference in Gothenburg last June. And we had decided at the end that we should propose this to the membership. So I think that we've had opportunities to discuss this. And it's good that we're making this public. We're having these webinars. We can have something sent out through the newsletter, have a discussion face-to-face at the next ICLS conference, but at some point we have to make a decision. And in addition to this, I would like to say that this is not something that ISLS has taken the lead on. This is a practice that other associations are actually following when they want to ensure the diversity of the leadership. And I think that's an important move. And as you said, Caroline, I can't think of any other better way of trying to do this at this moment. So I think that we should go forward and just discuss and decide it.
Yeah, so one thing that I would like to stress is that the decision ultimately lies with the society. And that's why there's a vote, and why a vote at the conference itself, where we have the largest representation of society members there and focused on a particular issue at a particular time. This way, it's not about us trying to push a particular agenda, but it places this out there for consideration. And it's definitely not a foregone conclusion that this vote will go through. But the hope is that in bringing this to a real question, one that has to be addressed at this time, that people will take the question seriously, and that this will be a time when we can really engage the society. And if people are substantially concerned about it, then certainly the vote will not go through. Because the negative vote will be heard. And if a majority are not in favor, it won't go through, but we will have, as a society, considered it together and in the process also gathered comments and discussion. So another thing I would like to raise is this was prompted by a concern over regional representation, which was an issue for a very long time because of an imbalance in our membership, even in terms of representation across regions. And of course, when the society votes, then the votes are going to be in proportion to membership within a region. And of course, people know people from their own region a little bit better. And so that has given an advantage, for example, to North America over other regions. But as president, I have been also particularly concerned that we don't also have representation across disciplinary groupings within our society. Though we greatly value the contributions from multiple fields, including education, psychology, computer science, design, and other related fields, we have a majority in our society of education and psychology as a background, and a minority from design and computer science. So although we greatly value the representation from these fields, we don't have even representation, and because of that, the same issues apply. And so these special purpose seats, though this whole line of thinking was prompted over concern of regional representation, the definition of those seats is being framed in a way that allows the society to have a great deal of flexibility in terms of what kind of balance we are working towards achieving at a given time. And so it gives us a tool that we can use also to try to achieve better balance from a disciplinary perspective. So now I will check to see if anyone is watching and has used our question and answer facility. So far I'm not seeing any questions. So I'm not sure if we have viewers out there, but so far questions have not been forthcoming. So we will wait here for a little while to see if other members come and would like to discuss with us and to voice their questions. Otherwise, the Google Doc will continue to remain open, and also we, as I had mentioned, encourage emails as well. Would you like to add anything, Eleni?
I think I'm covered at this point. Did any other issues come up during the first session, maybe, that you'd like to bring up, at this session as well? Any additional issues? So
I think the representation issue, again, coming back to the regional representation issue, I think as this has been discussed at some prior times, some people have had the view that if there is an imbalance of representation, then maybe that imbalance should be preserved on the board, so that the board is actually kind of just a reflection of the distribution of regions or disciplines within the society as a whole. I think this is a question to be considered. Do we think that sounds like a reasonable position to entertain? On the one hand, that kind of an argument can appear to be very reasonable. Nicole particularly raised an issue with that, though, and that was that it's very discouraging within groups that are smaller to think that regardless of how hard you work to contribute towards a society and how valuable you might be, that just because you're coming from a minority group, whether that be defined in terms of discipline or in terms of region, you have less of a chance of being successful. And that actually it has happened to society members who have worked hard to try to get involved and have tried to join the board and would have been very active and beneficial members of the board, but nevertheless just did not manage to garner enough votes because of this situation of representation. So I think it's a question here, are we concerned about that? Do we on the one hand, side with the view that the board should just be a reflection of our membership and in that way perpetuate the imbalance? Or do we want to make sure that all of these major designations like region and discipline, where clearly the society takes a stand on valuing regardless of discipline, or at least including all of these disciplines that have made substantial and important contributions to our field, to make sure that they're not turned away and not discouraged from participating. That makes it, some would argue, a very different kind of a situation. Yeah. So this is a question to throw out there. Eleni, I believe that you would fall on the side of supporting the regional representation stance, but what I'd like to hear is what would you have to say to a view that actually as a democratic society we really should on our board of directors just reflect the real distribution that's in our society. This is definitely a voice that could be raised. So what would be your reply?
So I think there are valid points on both sides, right? So we have to listen to these concerns as well. And I think that we have to think long term. So from the point of view that the society has decided that it's going to be an international society, and we have members in different parts of the world who would be interested in participating in the leadership of the society, we have to find ways to give them the opportunity to do so. And we have actively tried to recruit people in leadership positions and in the society from different parts of the world. We haven't been very successful for the latter part, for the leadership positions. So I think that since it is the intent of the society as a whole, we're just disagreeing, I guess, sometimes on the mechanisms that we're going to use, but we have tried other options as well. So I think that we should give this option a try as well. And I think it's important to remember that this perspective is actually giving us more flexibility than taking away any liberty. So even though we're saying that we're going to have these 3 designated seats, if there are 4 available slots on the board, doesn't mean that the board will actually approve all of these seats to be used for this purpose. So it may be only 1 of them is being used, or 2 of them are being used, or all of them are being used. So I think I trust the board as well to make the right decision at the right time in terms of promoting the society's interests, because it's all about that. It's not about personal gain of whatever person. It's not about promoting our friends, but it's keeping the diversity that is crucial to our society and something that we all want to see growing.
So another concern that has been raised in the past has been framed as, well, isn't this a very top-down solution? And doesn't that give an awful lot of power to the nominating committee to kind of influence how the vote comes out? And I do think this is an issue that we should address head on. And I think it's important to note that it has always been the case that we have a nominating committee, and that the nominating committee has a very large role to play in terms of assembling a ballot of candidates. And then the board is able to make some changes to that, but largely the board has approved of the selections and appreciated the selections of the nominating committee. Now, is that just a coincidence? Actually, no, because our nominating committee is made up of past presidents and longtime former board members, and also board members. They're people who we trust, people who have a history in the society, who know how things have been run, who love this society and have given their hearts and souls to serve the society in their careers. And so it's no surprise that we have largely been very happy. And in all the years that I've been involved in the board, don't recall a year where there were people put on the slate that by the nominating committee that really raised any level of concern from the board, because there was so much synergy and just kind of understanding, I think, and trust. because these are the people who have served our community for so long. So it's important to note that this nominating committee isn't you know, some unknown body of people out on the side who you know, we should be suspicious of, because they're really us. And I'd just like to ask Eleni, do you have anything to add regarding that issue?
So I agree, Caroline, that we should trust the nominating committee. I mean, being on the board is not an honorary position. It's something that requires a lot of hard work. And I think that everybody who has been on the board, and especially those people who are more senior, who are usually, you know, the members of the nominating committee, have full knowledge of that. They know how much, you know, we're a non-profit organization. we do all those things because we want to provide service to the society in many different ways, and we want to grow the vision of the society and realize that. So it's not for personal gain. I have full trust to you know, the decisions that are being made, that those decisions are being made for the better of the society instead of anything else. In terms of what you said before, this decision, this bylaws change that we're trying to push, is a kind of affirmative action, of course. And I've been thinking about that for a long time, whether, you know, that's fair to do or not. But I think that by having this kind of action, we're actually bringing attention to a topic that is a problem, that is a challenge. So I'm leaning towards, even though there are pros and cons, I'm leaning towards saying that we do need this type of affirmative action for a while, and see how that works. And if it doesn't work, then without any other bylaws change, we can just you know, fade it away by not implementing it. So in my mind, if it's used wisely, and I have trust, I fully trust, you know, the members of the board, based on the experience that I've had on the board and the people who have served the society for so many years, I trust that they will make the right decisions.
Yes, so it definitely, these are optional seats. We, the board and the nominating committee, can choose to designate up to 3 of the 4 open slots as these special purpose seats, but there's no requirement if the vote goes through, that all of them or even any of them would be used during a given election. It's mainly a tool that does, as Eleni has pointed out, offer a little bit more flexibility in addressing specific kinds of needs that are observed. And as we have discussed this over many iterations in the board, my sense is that it would not influence how the initial slate is put together, but only how the vote on the people who have been placed on the slate would be conducted. And it's already the case that we have practices in place, like having a nominating committee, and in also guidelines for who serves on that nominating committee, for actually selecting members of the society to be placed on the slate. And so it's not even affirmative action, I think, in the sense that we often think about it, because I think that what it won't do is change the standard for who the nominating committee would seek to include in that slate. Because obviously it's important to everyone on the board that board members are people who have already served in some capacity in the society, are known to the board as people who are reliable and hardworking and have something substantial to contribute. And it has never been part of the discussion even to try to promote into a position like that people just because they have a particular characteristic and not that meet the primary requirement of having something substantial to offer that would be of value to the society.
That's an excellent point, Caroline. I really like the way that you framed it, and I think that's an important thing to get across. Also at the face-to-face meetings at ICLS, at the next ICLS. So we've already been using this criteria for selecting, for the nominating committee to select who's going to be on the slate, because that has already always been a priority of ISLS to have this type of diversity. It's how the voting will happen to ensure that that's actually seen to fruition that will change. So I really like this way that you've said it.
So it's looking like this time was not a very popular time in terms of having attendees participate live in our session. This recording, of course, will be made available, so people who come along later will be able to catch up on what they missed. I think Eleni and I will now just give some concluding words, and then we can close this live session a little bit early. In my concluding words, what I'd like to do is just really extend an invitation to especially junior members of the society to get involved, regardless of your disciplinary background or your region. If you would like to serve and be involved in some active way in the society, would welcome your involvement. And the new membership application has places where you can indicate where you're interested in getting involved. You can also feel free to reach out to the chairs of the committees, or even just send me, as this year's society president, an email. And we'll do our best to try to find a place for you where you can serve alongside of other community members. And that's the best way to start to take the journey towards is eventually becoming part of our leadership on the board of directors. And we are looking for fresh blood. We really value junior members of the society who would like to get involved and serve.
So thanks, Caroline. So I concur with all that. I think the main point of the main bylaws change is that we want more people to be involved from more diverse backgrounds, different profiles, different countries, so a better representation of what ISLS stands for. So I also do invite you to participate in ISLS more, talk to people if you're interested in participating, and we'll find a way to help you be more active in this society. So thanks very much.
And thank you for attending, Eleni. It was great to have you.
Thanks for organizing this. Thanks for organizing this, Caroline, at very odd times of your own schedule.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.